Do you know that over 50% of logistics outsourcing relationships fail during the initial contract period? Why is that? That's phenomenal, isn't it? You know, the initial 3-5-year contract and 50% or so fail. I reckon there's 5 key reasons, and I've come up with these reasons because I've been helping companies go through the whole outsourcing process for probably almost 30 years, and I see the same mistakes being made time and time again. So let me run you through 5, and at the end, maybe you can think of some others and you can add them in the comments. So first of all, I would say poor selection. And whether it be talking about freight or warehousing, it's pretty much the same. People have selected the wrong partners when they're going through a logistics outsourcing process. And by that, I mean, have you picked a warehousing company, for example, that has experience in your industry with your sort of products? Have you picked a freight company that is used to doing full truckloads, part loads, cartons or whatever it is that you're sending? Time and time again, I see people picking the wrong provider when they're actually trying to build these relationships. I was talking to a company this morning. It just flashed to me an hour ago, and I won't say what sort of products they're dealing with. It wasn't a huge business. They weren't complicated products. It was fairly small SKU range. And they were having problems with their third-party logistics company, and the costs were going up, and their volumes are going up, but their costs are going up, and the margins are getting eroded. And I said to them, "Why are you using these people?" And they said, "Oh, we've been using them for years." I said, "But there's a whole raft of other companies that could probably do this better." Now, I wasn't trying to get them to swap third-party logistics companies. I was getting them to question were they actually using the right sort of company. The upshot of the discussion was they're going to go back to their existing provider and try to negotiate different terms, different rate structures and things like that. But it was just an interesting example. It's like, why are you using them? Whereas these companies, 3 or 4 companies, are all going to your customers anyway. They understand your customer base, your product base. So poor selection, I think, is one key reason why 3PL relationships go badly. But number 2, I would say, is lack of sharing. And I've talked about this on the channel before. It's about sharing information, your service expectations, your cost expectations, all of those little niggly things that go on in your operation that maybe you're trying to hide under the carpet. Don't. The fact that you get 5% returns, people quoting on your warehousing or freight or whatever need to understand all of that. They need to understand the good parts of the service and the bad parts, because they've got to resource all of this. They've got to cost it, customer locations and things like that. I've seen many people try to go through this whole outsourcing process with sharing very little. And what do you think the result of that is? If I'm a warehousing company or a freight company and I'm bidding on your business and I'm finding all the gaps in information being shared, what am I going to do? I'm going to factor in extra resource, extra cost to reduce the risk to me. So by lack of sharing detailed information, all that's happening is you're inflating the quote that you're going to get in most cases. If you disagree with me, comment down below. I'd love to hear your views. But to me, lack of sharing of information ends up in one thing: uncertainty on the people bidding for your contract and therefore a higher cost. Number 3, this is a classic one, too little time. People say to me, how long does it take to outsource warehousing? How long does it take to outsource a freight contract? Oh, look, how long is a bit of string? It depends on the complexity. It depends on the geography. Is it just in a city? Is it in a state? Is it in a country? Is it regional? What's the condition of the operation now? Is it running really smoothly? Is it going to be a simple transition? The systems in use? There are many factors that are going to influence how long it's going to take. If I had to pull a number out of the air, I'd say 6 months, probably minimum. But 6 months, you could, outsource a warehousing operation or outsource to new freight contractors and so on. Under that, you're starting to rush things and you're going to start missing things. What's the extreme? Here at Logistics Bureau, we had a client come to us a while back who said, "I know this is not ideal, but we're going to be out of our warehouse in 6 weeks. We need to find a new warehouse provider." Oh, you're kidding. And they weren't being stupid. There were reasons why the contract was going to end early, and they literally had 6 weeks to find In fact, it was warehousing and distribution. They had 6 weeks to find a new provider, and we took them through a whole outsourcing process. Within 6 weeks, got them into a new warehouse. It was hard, but manageable. Don't try and do it in 6 weeks, is what I'm saying. Think 6 months, and you're probably in the right ballpark. Don't try and rush these things. And so that's probably another sub-consideration, if you like. If you've got a warehousing contract, a freight contract, that's coming up in 2 years or 18 months, and you're thinking you might want to go to the market and assess some other providers, don't leave it too late. Think, okay, we'll start getting our thoughts together 9 months out. Maybe we'll start testing the water, 8 months out. We need to start that process 6 months out. So think ahead. If you need some support through that, think ahead. Don't be that client who says, we've got 6 weeks, help. So make sure you've got plenty of time. Number 4, one thing that people really underestimate is systems integration. IT is great, but it can also be a huge hurdle. And if you're trying to integrate new warehouse management systems, new transport management systems, inventory systems, it's always going to take longer than you expect. The interfaces are always going to take longer and be more costly than you expect. So again, allow extra time for that, and make sure, this is something I really focus on when I'm helping clients through this process. Let's say we're going to outsource warehousing to a new contractor, and we're using, ABC ERP system. I'm not going to sort of name any particular one. And the third-party logistics company says, yeah, we've done interfaces to ABC plenty of times. I want to see evidence of that. I want to talk to their IT manager and hear about how those integrations have gone. Because if there's one thing that's going to screw up the implementation, it's going to be that. So think about systems integration. Number 5, the management of the contract. Think about what your cost and service KPIs are going to be. So think about the relationship as well. So who's going to be reporting to who? What are going to be the regular sort of cycle or cadence of management meetings to look at results, cost, service, whatever that might be. But what are going to be the KPIs that you're going to measure this contract on? Is it going to be, delivery in full on time? I don't want to get into KPIs. You'll find lots of videos on KPIs on the channel, but be very careful what you pick, because what you pick is the thing that's going to drive behaviours. So why did I sort of stumble there when I mentioned delivery in full on time? I have seen instances where a 3PL was being measured on DIFOT, delivery in full on time, and they were recording 97% DIFOT, but the customers were complaining about lack of service. The client was complaining about lack of service, and what we found was part of it was the client's problem, and it was how they were measuring the DIFOT. Because the 3PL was measuring delivery in full on time for products that were in stock. Think about that for a minute. If they had 10% of the products out of stock all the time, you're not getting 97% DIFOT, you're getting a lot of very upset customers. So be very careful about how you're measuring that 3PL, because that's going to be driving the performance. If you've got any suggestions on that, do comment down below. If you want some tips, do comment down below. So there's my top 5 reasons that I believe a lot of outsourcing contracts fail during the first term of the contract. Let's just run through those again. Poor selection of the service provider, lack of sharing of information, knowledge of the business and the operation, too little time, systems integration issues, and not having the right KPIs in place. That would be my top 5. There's probably another 10. What do you reckon? Do comment down below. But some of the reasons that you think 3PL relationships fail. And there are other videos on the channel, I might put a couple of links down below, where I weigh up kind of whose fault is it when these relationships fail? Because it's very easy to say, oh, it's the warehousing company, it's the freight company. I'll let you into a little bit of a secret. In my experience, it's 50-50. Half of the time it's the client as well, not providing information, not having the right expectations, whatever it is. So don't go blaming your warehousing and transport providers all the time. Sometimes it's you. So there we go. For success, focus on those 5 things. Feel free to add more in the comments. And if you need some help through the outsourcing process, of course, just jump onto the description down below. You'll see all the contact details there. I'd love to have a chat with you. Share some tips if you're in trouble when it comes to outsourcing. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.